Your guess? Buddy, you wrote it. It's your story. What happened? Why are you guessing? What the fuck is this? Is it like Voldemort's diary where it's writing itself? Like, what the fuck do you mean?
If a show decides to focus more on the self-insert of the author, who literally said, I love violence against women, I can't help it, and only things throughout this finale, and spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1, all he does, Jax, not Goosework, because I know y'all like to tussle in here, is harass and then physically, sexually, and psychologically abuse all the women in the cast. And then there's more backstory for the side character that is a self-insert than there is for the actual solution of the show. You don't think that's suspicious? You don't think that's strange? Mind you, one of the quotes from Jax are calling Gangle Kitten, calling Zubul a non-binary weirdo. He also quite literally chokes Pomni and then says, you women are all so whiny. That is half of the finale. Jax is bullshit. That's just half the finale. They skip over Bubble. Kane comes back for some reason and he's so much nicer. And Zubul and Gangle hunch. We got almost no full answers like, yeah, I guess this is the plot. Mind you, the main character is Pomni. We see more of Jax than Pomni in the finale. You don't think that's suspicious, Elmo? I would also like to add in there as special notes, he kills 3 people. He killed his mama first. He killed Ribbit after he told Ribbit, hey, I killed my mama. And she said, you know what? We twinning them, we in it for real. After Jax incorporated into Kaufmo and Ribbit's friend group, they were a team, and then Jax was adopted by them. And then he killed Kaufmo. He almost killed Ragatha, and he was trying to get Gangle. Had Pomni not been there, he would have murdered those 2. He was on a kill streak of 3 before Pomni showed up, and if Pomni wasn't there, it would have been 5. So Elmo, you could take that shit out of here. It's ass. No character development, no overall solution, no unabstracting method, because Jax literally abstracts in the first 5 minutes, and all the things I just told you in this video did in fact occur.
So I loved it. I rewatched it. I don't love it anymore. Here's why. I recall Gooseberg saying that this show was really truly meant to be appreciated on a rewatch. And I'm just left wondering what parts were meant to be appreciated on a rewatch, because we don't really get an explanation for any of these hints that were dropped. Like, it's very much a slap in the face to Chekhov's gun, you know? CNA, nothing. Involvement of the audience, nothing. How the other characters got in the circus, nothing. Like, every, like, Kane's existence, like, being explained, the brain scanner thing, like, all of that ends up being a total nothing burger. And it's like, sure, whatever, the characters didn't end up needing to know this information, but, like, why present it to us then, That felt kind of like a waste of time to me. Similarly, I found everyone's character resolutions very lackluster. I think Kane's was the best of them. Kane got a pretty good character resolution if it wasn't all of, like, 30 seconds. Again, he's an AI, he processes things fast, but, like, damn, I wish that had more impact, and I feel like it could have if more time was spent on it, Same thing with Pomni and Ragatha's, entire connection, relationship. That hug would have meant more if they spent more time on those 2. Like, I'm glad we get our Yuri with Gangle and Zubul, but that's about all we get with them. And Gangle says about 2 lines throughout the entire movie. And, like, yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. Most of the movie is about Jax. And she's not very lovely at all, is she? Every single time Jax is on screen prior to the finale, she is out here being a digital menace to the rest of the characters. She has no redeeming qualities, and when we finally get her backstory, we get her trauma, and we start to get a bit of an understanding of why she is the way she is, with the enmeshment with her mom, her struggle with being trans femme, and, like, these are all, elements that make her character very interesting, and we almost get a moment to feel bad for her when it is then revealed that she's the digital serial killer. Pomni's character is completely butchered by the fact that she has no reaction to this, and the entire time it is just like, I'm the only one that can save you, I can save you, I can save you. And, like, it's like, and then Jax is like, no, like, don't save me, like, I can't be saved. And it's just like, what the hell am I watching? What the hell is this? Like, there was a way to make Funny Bunny a good angsty Yuri ship, but this sucked. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not the target audience for it. Like, I thought, like, I don't know, like, this, like, I wasn't into it. I like the show. I hold it close to my heart. It's very near and dear to me, for all this time that I've been with it, but it's just, like, this finale was mid, and I can't run from that anymore. I'm gonna bring my rating down to about a 6. It was enjoyable, but it was not all that it could have been, and more time definitely could have saved it, but more time in the writer's room could have saved it even better, Feel free to attack me in the comments. I'll be waiting there. But yeah,
I am probably one of the few people in the TADC fandom that are absolutely furious about the finale. I need to use a different voice for this video, just to properly express my borderline rage for this ending. This video will have heavy spoilers. If you do not want to watch the leak, or simply be spoiled, please do not watch this. I am going to make separate videos for each point I'm going to make, because I'm genuinely going to lose my mind with Glitch Productions. Firstly, I have zero fucking idea why this was made into an entire movie. Considering the entire thing was just about Jax and his stupid emo backstory, we still know basically nothing about the rest of the cast, especially Pomni, which I find highly disrespectful since she was marketed as the main character, and the fact that Gooseworks, the writer of the fucking show, told us and gave us a whole list about the order in which the characters' stories would be told. It doesn't make it any better that Jax was confirmed to be a self-insert of Gooseworks. I've witnessed this specific behavior way too many times during the late 2010s on the creepypasta Amino, and those people were always hated for a damn reason. Why in the ever-living hell would you waste an entire series on a character that's not only a reflection of you, but also the most hated character in this show? What pisses me off more is that the Soma theory is fucking canon. There is only one piece of information in the dialogue that you could possibly link to the Soma theory making sense, and it's that they don't remember their names after entering. You expect me to believe that a brain scanner can perfectly replicate a human's traumas, aspirations, and behaviors, but can't scan a fucking name. As a writer myself, that is the laziest thing I've ever seen anyone who claims to be passionate about their work do. The finale, at least in the trailers and ending of episode 8, it is heavily implied that this would be a serious, dire situation. That they had to find a way out now that Kane was gone. That would have been significantly more interesting than whatever disrespectful bullshit we were given. Part 2 will be out later. For now, rant over.
Now that we're at a point where Gooseworks has to come online and answer so many different aspects about the Amazing Digital Circus that didn't get answered in the finale, I just want to say it annoyed me so much when people were trying to defend this and say things like people have to realize that this show is character driven and not lore driven, because that was not the case from the very beginning. I'm not saying shows can't change their focus, but it's usually done in the reverse. Cartoons like Adventure Time, a regular show, started off very episodic and very character driven, only to become very lore driven as the show progressed and went on. But in the case of the Amazing Digital Circus, it starts off very lore heavy from the pilot. The mystery of this circus and why all these characters are here. Pomni immediately trying to take off the headset when she gets put into the circus, and we getting to see these office doors and trying to find an escape, only to then have the following episodes focused around the characters, not even mentioning escaping or the company again until episode 7 and 8. And then when it comes to the final episode, it revolves strictly around characters, not answering any of the questions that people had when it came to CNA, why the people are in the circus, or anything like that. Like, my first thought when Kinger was like, we're not real, we're all brain scans, was, well, why are they brain scans? How did they all come to put on these headsets? All these characters that seemingly come from all different walks of life, how did they all end up in the same position where they're all getting their brain scans? That was never answered. And I've seen some people try to defend all these unanswered questions by saying things like, oh, well, you know, this wasn't the focus of the show, y'all are focusing on things that they weren't trying to focus on. Look, that might be the case, but at the same time, you cannot introduce these concepts and these ideas and not answer any questions when it comes to them and think people are crazy when they say, yo, it's very weird that you didn't answer these questions or you didn't focus on any of it. For example, in Adventure Time, when they introduced the Lich, they just introduced him as a bad guy. They're like, yo, this guy is evil and this is the Lich. When they dive deeper into the Lich's character, they go out their way to say that he is a scholar of Globe. When you go out your way to say that, it makes people go, who is Globe and why does the Lich follow him? To which they answer both of those questions. If they didn't answer those questions, people would rightfully ask, well, why did you go out your way to mention Globe and that he's a scholar of Globe if you're never going to expand on that? And there are just so many things in the Amazing Digital Circus that just did not get answered. Mind you, I did not even pay that deep of attention into the series when I was watching it, and I'm still over here like, yo, none of this is getting explained, and I don't understand how some people are defending that.
My impression of the Amazing Digital Circus characters. I'm a woman who serves as a plot device to further Jax's story. I'm a woman that serves as a plot device to further Jax's story. Except it's mainly just him abusing me, but I also like to draw, and I like Zooble. I also end up becoming a woman who serves as a plot device to further Jax's story. Except I had the potential to be the third main character, which would have strengthened the show a ton. But that didn't happen. Instead, I was kind of used as a middleman to further the bond between Jax and Pomni, so that we get more Jax time. My mom is horrible. Hi, I'm Pomni, poster child and main character of the Amazing Digital Circus, though I end up just becoming someone glued to Jax. Hi, I'm Jax. I'm a problematic, misogynistic individual with gender identity issues. You only ever see me approach these issues in the final episode by force, after the other main character, who's kind of just centered around me now, looks through flashbacks for 20 minutes. Only after it is forced out of me and I don't share anything with anyone, do I hug Pomni, and I'm sad because I'm dead. Hi, Jax here. I'm also coddled at the very end of the episode, and everyone is so careful and gentle with me, despite everything I've done and me showing no growth whatsoever.
The TADC fandom needs to stop with the Jax is a main character excuse. When has he ever acted like a main character from episode 1 through 4? when all he did was sit there in the sidelines. You don't suddenly turn into a main character halfway in the story. That's not how that works. It was never specified he'd be relevant for the plot until Gooseworks wanted to be different and include herself from her favorite character, Jax. And I know damn well y'all never thought of Jax as the main character from the start. You just took Gooseworks' one dumb tweet about him being a main character and kept dragging it. She literally did it last minute. If not late. Literally. The whole plot was supposed to be Pomni wanting to escape, yet gets put into different adventures with her friends. What the fuck is the point of focusing on Jax when there was no build-up from his character? It's 9 episodes, and it's not enough to fully understand how the plot needs to go.
Okay, time to write the finale of my show. Jax's backstory, Jax's mother issues, Jax's daddy issues, a montage edit! Right in the middle. Jax wearing a maid dress for me service, I mean fan service, Jax's dead friend, Jax's other dead friend, Jax times 5 Jaxes. Jax puts a bow on his head. Listen, the finale is going to work. He's going to be so self-deprecating that all the fans will overlook any issues with the writing.
With episode 9 as it just becomes the Jax show. Now, if Goose had intended all along for this to be the Jax show, well, she should have made that more clear from the start. The pilot of Digital Circus really gives the impression that it's going to be an ensemble cast, with Pomni as our protagonist and Ragatha and Jax as her deuteragonists, making them a sort of main trio and the other supporting characters. Despite Gooseworks claiming to have the whole series planned out, she also has admitted to coming up with the entire concept in 2 weeks in order to make a pitch to Glitch Studios because they wanted a 3D show and all of her existing show ideas were for 2D. If it wasn't all planned out, then, well, episode 9 rightfully feels like a desperate writer struggling with how to end this thing while also focusing way too much on her own personal blorbo. Now, I can sympathize. I don't think Goose could have possibly anticipated just how big this project would get and just how much would be riding on it, and that's a lot of pressure for anybody, never mind the sole creator, director, writer of a show. But I'm still gonna be honest in my assessment of the writing. Now my, and I'm sure many other people's, problem with the finale is just how many setups were dropped like hot potatoes. And I'm not even one of those people mad that the characters were brain scans. Given that Soma is one of my favorite games of all time, I was already based and Soma theory pilled from the start.
Don't let the circuitry fool you, those human ones.
No, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't even bother me that they all kinda knew deep down all along. It does bother me that Kinger just suddenly remembers this fact. I feel like this is information he should have known, and was reluctant to tell the others because, well, they would probably all have an instant existential meltdown. It would be a subtle change that could have turned Kinger from a tool for exposition dumps and pep talks to a character with at least some agency. The basic thing the finale didn't answer for me was what I brought up earlier. Why the digital circus? Why this setting? Why does Kane think that this is his purpose?
Making adventures is my art. It's all I exist to do. This is why I was created. This is my function. I just wanted to fulfill my purpose.
DNA didn't make games after all.
No, we didn't make games.
So why is it a circus? Why is it a game? And what was with the conversation in episode 7 about Kane being able to alter their minds and Kinger seemingly realizing that has something to do with Scratch and him being the first abstraction?
If I did anything more, trust me, it would.
Why was that such a needle drop? Why were there so many implied mysteries about the AI? Why did Kane and Bubble indicate that leaving AI running too long would have ramifications?
Disgusting.
Why were we shown AI could become sentient? Why was Kane saying he could make his AI 57% more immersive? Why was the concept introduced that Kane couldn't tell the difference between an AI and a human mind?
If I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what can happen?
Why can they all remember details of their lives but not their names? Did Kane deliberately choose to make that happen, or is that just a side effect of the brain scans being processed? Why was Pomni's Kane-inflicted torment something from the circus and not her human life? You, that's why. And sure, you could argue these things aren't the main point of the story. However, the point turned out to be endless bland therapy talk that culminates in the majority female cast, plus Azubal, all having to rally around a man who has been physically and emotionally abusing them for years. Who they all at various times have tried to reach out to, and to include, and to make a connection with, which he has violently shunned at every turn. But now, to the detriment of their own character development and character resolutions, they all should feel really bad for not reaching out even harder because he has mommy issues. Ugh. The optics are not optimal. And no, Jax potentially, maybe, possibly being trans does not make this okay. In fact, it kind of makes the implications even worse in context, and it was left ambiguous enough to be interpreted any which way anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Hey guys! I know I said I wouldn't post often, but I'm back! Guess what I'm gonna fucking rant about? I'm irritated as fuck. I'm irritated as fuck with this bum-ass ending and this bum-ass series. I'm so upset! I haven't talked enough shit on the pacing of that fucking episode. That pacing is ass. I've genuinely seen better pacing in middle school and Wattpad fanfiction about Shrek and Woody meeting on Tinder and then fucking in the first chapter. When I say them mourning the world that they just lost doesn't last long enough, it does not last long enough. They put the majority of that shit in the fucking trailer. By the time the Jax section is over, the ginormous Jax section where it's all flashbacks and bullshit, and like, how he sees the characters or whatever, there's 20 minutes left in the movie! Only 20 minutes? And you know who takes up the majority of those 20 minutes? Fucking Kane! I don't care! We know enough about Kane! Yeah, the fan service, by the way, the fan service, all of it revolves around Jax. All of it happens because of Jax. Gangle wipes Zubal's tears because she's crying over Jax. Ragatha and Pomni hug, not because they just lost the world around them, it's because Jax abstracted their mourning Jax! It's so crazy how the entire episode tries to make you feel bad for him. He killed 3 people! He pushed his mom to the floor, that bitch didn't get back up. Dead. Has a huge argument with Ribbit, and doesn't check on her when she's actively spiraling. Dead. Doesn't check on Cosmo when he starts actively spiraling. Dead. Everything is his own fault and he refuses to take accountability for it. I'm so tired. And Pomni doesn't make him take accountability for it either. No one makes him take accountability for it. Absolutely nobody. Pomni had so much potential and then she just becomes the biggest fucking bird in the entire circus. Guys, Jax is right. We've all done bad things to deserve to be here. What? Excuse me, bitch? What could have Ragatha possibly done? What could have Gangle possibly done? he's gonna make. We're gonna learn if he heils or not. We're gonna learn if he's also a Nazi. That ending was so fucking lazy. I'm convinced they just brought Kane back to explain everything. God forbid the characters figure out anything by themselves anymore. No, we have to bring back Kane, the guy who knows everything, in order to explain shit. Fuck, they did the same shit with Kinger in episode 8. I gave them a pass. I gave them a pass there, and then they pulled the same formula in the final episode. Genuinely, I've been so fixated on how butt shit fucking booty this ending was. I'm rewriting these characters, and I'm not even a writer. So if y'all want to hear about that, comment, I guess. I have nothing else to say. I think I've gotten all my gripes out. Thank you.
Honestly, Gooseworks writing is shit, but she also was the only writer. But this brings me back to my other point. Why don't you just hire more writers? You guys make all this fucking merch that's constantly getting sold out. You're getting streams on your episodes. You have a deal with Netflix. It's on Netflix. And you're telling me you can't hire more fucking writers? Like, at that point, that's like your own problem. You wanted to be stressed out. You wanted to write it badly yourself. Just give them a write.
The ending for the Amazing Digital Circus was absolute dog shit. Even if we just ignore how bad of a person Goose is and try to be unbiased, that shit still sucked. So allow me to air out all my grievances with the final episode, alright? Our first topic is Jax, the poster boy. This is a very big complaint, but I hate how Jax-centered this show is. Literally more than half of the finale was about him, which is very stupid when you have 6 other characters waiting in the background. Pomni barely spoke at all during that period of time, despite being the main character, which, by the way, was one of the main selling points for the show. Everyone was so excited to have a female protagonist, only for her to be sidelined almost immediately. Worst part is that the whole half hour of Jax wasn't even necessary. Genuinely, none of her disturbing fantasies made any impact to the ending. We already knew she was violent and an asshole and had a secret soft side. The only thing we didn't know was her backstory, which could have been explained in like 10 minutes. And arguably the most important part of her character wasn't even mentioned in the show. I honestly cannot blame anyone for not knowing Jax is transgender.
Oh, but what about how she reacted to the dress and the bow?
I speak for a lot of people when I say most of us thought it was just a weird Goose thing. Because who in their right mind would sell merchandise of this serious thing and treat it like a joke? There's so much merch. So I cannot blame anyone for not picking it up with a maid dress. And as for the bow, I would have just assumed that scene was shipbait if I didn't already know. Speaking of shipbait, I can assure you that more than half of the character interactions were shipbait. The Raga palm hug, that was sweet but entirely unnecessary and it went on for too long. The ribbon scene that I don't wish to speak of. The funny bunny propaganda was clear to all of us, I think. The Bluetooth scene, that could have been cut entirely. And do not get me started on Google. They are cute together, yes, but that is all they are. They are only ever together unless it has something to do with Jax or a one-off scene. I could not tell you what Zooble thinks of the others because I've barely seen them speak to anyone else. And on the topic of relationships, it feels like they're all predictable. Nobody can be mad at anyone for too long. Everyone has to suddenly come to a complete understanding immediately. Ragatha and Pomni have to understand each other through an off-screen conversation because they have to be friends for the next Jax plotline to work. Kane has to immediately understand why the humans are so upset despite his entire character being that he cannot because we have to end the show on a good note. Anyways, fuck-ass show. Fuck-ass Mike Dobby for making the dumb program. Fuck-ass Leroy.
People will get mad at you if you say that Jax is bad representation. Your character does not have to be a good person to be a good character. Your character should be well written in order to be good representation. The reason that Jax is not well written is because 1, she's the basic stereotype of bully hurts people because they were hurt in sad backstory. Feel bad for them, please. And you can have that type of character, such as Zuko from Avatar or Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso, who change and grow, or you can have characters like BoJack Horseman who does not change and keeps making bad decisions. However, the narrative cannot baby these characters and absolve them of any guilt as if they're a little ooh baba baby who didn't know any better and everything is everyone else's fault. And the other characters have to sit back and be saints while they face abuse at the hands of this character. Pomni retaliating against Jax in episode 6 was a great move, but it ultimately meant nothing because she was willing to run into abstraction just to save Jax. Pomni's lack of motivation throughout episodes 2 and 6, with Pomni's original goal, searching for the exit, only being featured in episodes 1 and 7, this makes her entire character center around Jax, despite the fact that she's seen her abuse the other characters. Now, it would be different if characters like Ragatha were ever understanding and saint-like, because Ragatha is not the main character. Ragatha is kind and gentle. Pomni is the main character, and if she turns into a cameraman for the Jax show, her point of view, being ultra-sympathetic towards Jax, is going to make the narrative ultra-sympathetic towards Jax, when she does not deserve it. And characters like Gangle and Ragatha are just left in the dust. I went over why Jax is a stereotype and I'll keep going over it, but in this case, she is babied by the narrative, and this keeps her from being a complex character. She is not complex because she does not develop or shift or change at all. Growth is not necessary to be complex, but depth and transformation is. Something must move in this character. Just as a plot is meant to move forward, so too do the characters. Even if they move in a circle, things need to move, things need to happen. Jax abstracts in the first 4 minutes, and then we see her backstory, and nothing changes. She can't even be brought back. The amazing digital waste of time.
90% of the hate that this character gets would disappear overnight like magic if his fans would stop lying when they tried to defend him. Because no, Jax did not receive a single consequence for his actions throughout the entire show. And the fact that I've said that and people are legit getting mad at me is blowing my mind. I've had people DMing me talking about he literally died, he abstracted. Somebody posted one of my videos to Twitter talking about, oh, this person doesn't think that the depressed bully dying was a fitting punishment. No, it was not a punishment because he chose that. Like, why do y'all keep taking out the context that he chose that? Like, did y'all not watch the finale? Zubo literally calls him out when he abstracts, and it's like, you would choose to do that. You would choose to, we have no hope, so you can't cause us any harm anymore, so we're all at our lowest. You would choose that moment to abstract, the most selfish moment to abstract, because there's literally nothing else you could do. I've legit seen people compare Jax to BoJack Horseman, and I'm trying to understand how. How do y'all think these characters are similar? How do y'all think these characters were treated similar by their stories? BoJack, who faced every consequence under the sun, from how Herb wouldn't forgive him, and he intentionally wouldn't forgive him because he wanted that to eat at BoJack for the rest of his life, for him being exposed for what he did to Sarah Lynn, him losing his career, him never being able to accomplish the things that he wanted to do in his career because he just couldn't learn and couldn't adapt and couldn't become a better person. How do y'all compare BoJack Horseman to Jax, who didn't face a single consequence. No one ever called him out for his actions. Anytime Zubul was the one person who would have called him out for his actions, and the one time where she starts, everybody else is, oh, we're not gonna get anywhere from this. We're not gonna get anywhere from arguing with one another. He never faced any single consequence. No one ever called him out. And then when he came to his death, he got to choose how he went out. He looked around and said, yeah, it's miserable. Kane's gone, and nobody has hope. I'm gonna take myself out. I'm not gonna thug it out with these guys. And he took himself out. People keep looking at that moment where Pomni was hugging him, and he was like, I don't want to go, just ignoring the fact that he would not have been in that situation if he hadn't chose to abstract. But he chose to do that. Just because he chose to do it and he ended up regretting it doesn't make it a real punishment, because at the end of the day, he still chose to be in that position. Nobody put him in that position. And even if you want to say that him abstracting was a punishment, it was a punishment for him never learning to reach out to people. It wasn't a punishment for him harassing Ragatha. It wasn't a punishment for him harassing Gangle. It wasn't a punishment for him throwing Pomni out the side of a truck or anything like that. It was only a punishment for him being stubborn, not for anything else that he did in the circus.
Jax being the main character is the problem. The main character is supposed to be likable. The main character is supposed to have redeeming quality. The main character is supposed to have a journey and or goal that captivates you into their story. Jax has none of these qualities for most people. He's an unrepentantly evil douchebag that in his mind killed 3 people, one of which he bullied to self-deletion. People are not mad because they don't realize Jax is the main character. They're mad because Jax is a main character and he's terrible at being one. Jax was never even introduced or ever insinuated to ever be a main character. The pilot episode had him as just kind of a quirky, kind of mean, funny guy. The second episode had him sidelined for Pomni. Jax was tied up in the third episode so we could focus on Kinger. Episode 4 was focused on Gangle. For half the show, Jax was only used for laughs, which was amazing. Then Jax, the selfish prick that he is, said, why isn't this about me? And proceeded to dominate the entire second half of the show. He dominated the movie so much that the only discourse about the movie that can be had is whether you like Jax or not. If you like Jax, you love the movie. If you like literally anything else about the story, you are left thoroughly disappointed. We understand that Jax is the MC now for some reason. We understand that Jax is supposed to be unlikable, even though the show tries so hard to get us to sympathize with him every scene he's in. We're just saying that this fact was a disease upon the show. Poor Zubul and Ragatha never got their episode. Pomni's entire character brain rotted down to just being Jax's therapy dog. We left the movie with more questions than answers because Jax took up half the screen time. I don't care about Jax being a cautionary tale. Breaking Bad did it better. Arcane did it better. Snowfall did it better. BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, The Boys, Invincible, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Star Wars. Don't even get me started on anime. Steven freaking Universe did this concept infinitely better than Jax the Barnacle Head. Notice how Mbessa didn't need to overpower the entire lore, story, and cast to send that same message? Because the writers knew not to make her the central focus of the story. By the way, I worked really hard on this video, so like, follow, and share, or you'll never see me again.
Hi, I'm back. A lot of comments are very mad at me, so I've decided to double down. This phone is on my dresser, and I'm going to read off what's on my computer, so I'm going to look this way. But I'm talking to you. I understand that the point of the circus is to make the best of the connections that they have because they are all that they have. I understand that Jax is a tragic cautionary tale of what can happen to yourself and those around you when you choose to lash out instead of accepting help and being part of a community. I understand that the details of CNA and character backstories are not the main point and are not meant to be explored. I understand, or explored in depth, I guess. I understand what was trying to be done here. My point is that it was so fucking horribly paced and executed that none of this lands the way it was meant to land without the context of Gooseworks' social media posts. It all falls so flat and is so underwhelming. Kane spends an extensive amount of time on the Able adventure and building up CNA to be this whole thing, and we get nothing. Fine. That doesn't change the main storyline, I guess, but wow, isn't that a lot of build-up and alluding for, like, nothing? I'm sure it wasn't necessary to the plot, but can we at least admit that that was like a little bit anticlimactic? I could still forgive that if all the characters remained consistent and made sense. But like Zubul tells Jax, oh, we aren't going to let you abstract on us. And then after Jax extracts, they're like, oh, that's convenient. Way to go, Jax. And it's like, okay, like what's happening? Not only that, but like not to mention like Zubul just got over their body dysmorphia. Like they just get over it. It's never mentioned again other than they're just like, yeah, I got over it. Like I thought about it and it's fine. And I guess you can maybe argue that that's thanks to like having the supporting company of Gangle, but like that was just so sudden to me that like Jax's gender dysphoria gets like half the finale and Zubul's just gets like, never mind, we're good. Like what the fuck? Speaking of Gangle, she's got exactly one character arc in the movie where she can't cry for Jax at the beginning and at the end without having anything having happened to her, because all the stuff that we see with Jax, Pawnee sees that. Nobody else sees that. And then just at the end of it, she just finally cries. So I guess, I don't know, she just lets it go. No addressing the complexity of the relationship or how she struggled with her grief and anger. She just shed some tears and that's it. Cool, I guess. We're relying pretty heavily on context here, but whatever. I wish we had seen more of Jax's dynamic with her and the others besides Ragatha, because maybe more context would have helped shed light on the way that everyone reacted to this. I find it more confusing also that nobody wanted to ask Kinger any further questions about CNA after the brain scan lore drop. Like, even if it wouldn't change the plot, like, you guys, like, I know it wouldn't change the plot, but like, wouldn't it make sense just in the context of the characters asking about it? If I were in the fucking circus, I would want to be like, all right, sit down, old man, tell me everything you know. Like, you know? Also, the way Ragatha's entire philosophy was correct the entire time, and she is paid dust by both the narrative and the other characters for it. Like, same with Kinger, honestly, but at least they didn't, like, deep fry him, you know? Like, Ragatha is tortured for getting it right the entire time, and no one ever, like, gives her that. No one gives her flowers for it, at least as far as I've observed. You can feel free to prove me wrong with that one. And Pomni, I don't know, like, Pomni, stand up, girl. Like, her character disappointed me so much. I feel like she had a backbone exactly one time in the entire circus, like, you know, with that whole, like, confrontation of Jax. The rest of the time, she's got this god-awful savior complex that she only seems to have for Jax. I used to get really mad seeing comments that would, like, call Pomni a pick-me and stuff like that, because I'm like, no, that's my girl. She's not like that, like, you know? Like, you're gonna mess with her, you're gonna mess with me. But, damn, like, all I see now is, like, a red and blue Jax simp, and I see why they made her character design a fucking jester, you know? Like, sorry, Pomni, but, like, yeah, that's how I feel. I'm gonna go to work, so I'll look back later and see everyone crucifying me in my comment section again, but yeah, I just want to get that off my chest. Sorry for the ramble.
I said this before, but y'all said I was being transphobic by bringing this up, but we're specifically putting Gooseworks on the front. So proving that Jax is transgender, the self-insert of Gooseworks in the show, would that not prove, based off of Jax's actions throughout the entire show, the sexual harassment of Gangle, calling her sweet cheeks or kitten in the Brazilian, the Portuguese subtitles, calling Zubul a non-binary weirdo, so you're trans, but transphobic, but also misogynistic, and you sexually harass women. You're also physically abusive because you went to choke out Pomni just to see her reaction. Oh, you forgot you don't have to breathe in here. Haha, I scared you. When all his eyes went black the first time she went to save him, he was choking her out. Does that not give Gooseworks hates women? Also accompanied by the literal screenshot up here that I'm going to put of her saying, I love violence against women. I can't help it. I love these nails. I love these nails. Mwah. Gooseworks could never, big lady that she could never touch. But that's not suspicious to you? Y'all don't think she hates women? When I posted that, I was like, this is a transgender woman saying she loves violence against women, she can't help it. Then in the show where she's the self-insert of the main character because she went on Tumblr again and updated the plot. Horrible writing, horrible writing. That she sexually, physically, psychologically, and emotionally abuses only the women on the cast. She does nothing to Kinger. Once Kinger gains sanity, she leaves him alone. And I'm talking she as officially Gooseworks. You don't think that's suspicious? You don't think that's weird? Where are all the bi people? Where are all the non-binary folk who were defending this behavior? Where are all the people that was calling me transphobic by addressing the fact that Gooseworks is a trans woman that hates women? It's not about all trans women. It's obviously about this one who's fucking weird. Y'all gonna let this slide?
I don't care what the hell happened. I hate that purple rabbit with a passion. That whole show was just basically Jax and friends. Now I can see where the correlation lies when it comes to Goose and fucking Vivzy Pop. I know I could have been quiet and just posted on my story like the petty person I am and move on. But that clusterfuck of an ending along with the drama that's been surrounding the show I feel deserves a rant. Because if you think that a whole episode about a character's backstory deserves a whole movie production just for the ending to be rushed and left the audience with a bunch of questions, then I fear we've lost the plot. And it's not even about just the show. It's how Goose treated the leak and her overall behavior surrounding it. Like at the end of the day, that's your work getting leaked, and I don't find it fair to the people who spent time, money, and effort into making the episode. I find it weird and kinda corny. Overall, I'm relieved to be done with what I invested years in and drop Glitch entirely. Love yourself, keep it out.
I genuinely don't get people who say they relate to Jax or even find some sadness for his ass. Treating a literal abuser like a precious comfort character who just needs a hug completely erases the trauma of his victims. Remember, his stupid ass literally gets off on smashing Gangle's mask to keep her depressed, leaving Ragatha to rot in agonizing pain while Glitched, shooting his own teammates, stealing everyone's bedroom keys like a total creep, and casually triggering a literal NPC genocide just because his miserable, pathetic self can't handle his own digital midlife crisis. Yes, you can relate to his defense mechanism. I don't find any problem in that, and I low-key don't fucking care. However, relating to a defense mechanism is one thing, but by executing it, by terrorizing everyone around you, is just being a toxic abuser. Jax has zero empathy, and trying to excuse his abusive behavior just because he has the most ass-sad backstory ever completely misses the point of how toxic he actually is. I find it fucking hilarious who some of y'all are trying to find a secret soft side to Jax when completely pointless, where the person who created him as a self-insert is loudly shouting, no, he really is just a piece of shit. And honestly, seeing the stupid shit Gooseworks does make this self-ass insert makes even more sense, but my huge hate for Gooseworks is another topic that I will discuss later. Whether it's her bad writing or his supposed trauma, absolutely nothing justifies the pure malice Jax inflicts on everyone else in that circus. He's a bully, plain and simple, and I'm tired of people acting like he's deep. It blows my mind how fans will bend over backward to coddle a literal digital terrorist. He isn't some broken softie waiting for a hug. He's an unrepentant asshole who actively enjoys psychological torment. If you look at a guy who casually causes severe trauma for other humans, sexually blackmailing someone, and your first thought is, I can fix him, you need a serious reality check. Honestly, as I look deeper into the show, half of the things Kane does to the humans isn't even half as bad as what Jax does to the cast. Kane is a literal AI with absolutely zero clue how human emotions work, so half the messed up stuff he does is just him being a stupid AI, but Jax knows exactly what he's doing and chooses to be a straight up asshole anyway. If I see one comment crying about how I missed the point of his character, or that he actually has deep trauma, I'm just gonna assume you didn't even watch the video and straight up lose my shit. Goodbye.
Oops, all Jax. Wow, I wonder why Ragatha looked like she was taking off her headset. Oops, all Jax. How are people continually getting into the Amazing Digital Circus? What is going on? Oops, all Jax. Wow, I like Zubul and Gangle. I can't wait for their own episodes. Oops, all Jax. Who are CNA and why are they doing this to people continually over time? Oops, all Jax. Dang, the Cain and Abel metaphor is really good. I hope they expand on this. Oops, all Jax. Wow, Kaufmo and Ribbit are so mysterious. I hope we get to know more about them as their own individual person completely unrelated to another character. Oops, all Jax. Bubble's really interesting. You're telling me she might be Abel? I really hope they go more in detail about this. Oops. Jax has abused Gangle relentlessly throughout the entire time. Hopefully they focus on the victim and not the perpetrator. Pomni seems pretty cool. Hopefully she won't be used as a plot device solely used to comfort the male characters in the show, but that'll never happen, right?
This video contains spoilers for the recently released episode 9 of The Amazing Digital Circus. Proceed with caution. Honestly, beyond the fact that I'm sure the majority of the Amazing Digital Circus fandom is made up of children, thus making them easier to please with a mere happy ending and a few shit moments here and there, I think a big factor in why the people who went to see it in cinemas has such a drastic difference in opinion to the people who saw it in the leaks is at least in part due to sunken cost fallacy, which is basically the idea that when you put a certain amount of resources into something, you really don't want to abandon it or admit that it was a waste. For example, the reason why a lot of people don't leave bad relationships is because they've been in it for so long and they don't want to admit that it was all for nothing. And in this case, you obviously have the money people spent on theater tickets. Money, especially in this economy, is scarce and no one wants to admit that they've ever wasted it. So I can imagine that a lot of people's initial reactions are to justify to themselves why they spent this money in the first place so that they don't feel bad about it. But I also think it goes beyond not wanting this to be a monetary waste. This show has been running for 3 years. When you're in a fandom, you're dedicating your time, your effort, and your love to that piece of media. No one wants to sit there and think that it was a waste. And whilst I don't think enjoying something is a mistake just because the ending wasn't that good, it can often feel like that, especially when you have an ending like this that answers so few questions. It makes it feel like all the episodes beforehand are just worthless. Hell, I go further. An ending that makes it feel like all the characters minus 2, maybe even 1, pretty much don't matter at all. Honestly, replace Pomni with a therapy dog and this ending would play pretty much the same. And to clarify, you are fully allowed to be upset at the insane lack of follow through that this finale has. Even me, as someone who is fully aware of the fact that this show has very little continuity, is surprised at how much this show leaves up in the air in its ending moments. And sure, you can argue that it's meant to be a character-based show, which even then I put an asterisk next to that, but you can't deny that a massive part of the show wasn't its mystery. I mean, hell, that is literally the framework, the pilot, something that's meant to set the tone for the rest of the series lays out for us. And I wasn't even into the theory side of the show, but it's just so crazy how unsubstantial everything that happens in this ending is. Straight up, nothing matters, and it's probably because we spend the majority of the episode in Jax's mind so that we can get his backstory. A backstory episode for the finale of your show. I'm not even gonna get into it again. Sorry, I got a bit off topic there. My point was, a lot of people are going to be defending the show in ways that don't even really make sense because they know that they dislike it, but they don't want to admit that they dislike it. One, because fandoms are parasocial as hell and have issues with that, but also two, people don't want to admit that they wasted their time, love, and money. Now, how do I think the reactions to this finale will pan out as time goes on? Well, clearly to some people, this finale has at least some redeeming qualities, probably the funny bunny moments, the fact that the rest of the characters get a fairly happy ending, and also the possible queer coding of Jax. So it's not gonna be like Stranger Things where everyone kind of agrees, yeah, that was horrible. And the fandom is pretty hostile to any type of criticism, as we've seen in the past. But I do think sooner or later a big creator in the fandom is gonna be like, hey, no, I wasn't really happy with this, which is gonna create a safe space for other fans to express their disappointment without being viewed as a hater, and then we'll enter the great shift where everyone starts admitting that this was not as good as they wanted it to be. $50 says it's Danny Mata. I'm about to take out my hair, not too much on me, but I don't think so. I didn't really have any opinions on Gooseworks or anything that she had, right? I just was trying to take the show. I'm never gonna be somebody who really speaks on the authors. I only speak on the art, right? But Jax and Gooseworks are very evil people that y'all really need to watch out for in your daily life. Reason why, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Jax literally is proven to now be sexually harassing Gangle the entire show. And this is proven because when Jax subtracts and Pomni goes inside of his mind and he sees the different doors and the different perspective, you can see how he sees Gangle. Gangle's a master, if y'all cannot tell. There is a scene where he's like, and I'm going to give you my room key in case you want to come over and do something fun later. And in his brain, she's blushing. In his brain, he truly believes that she is into him. And his angsty-ish tactics are working to get her to like him. But we all know, watching from the outside, that nigga's crazy. We know that Gangle does not like him. We know that Gangle feels uncomfortable with all of these tactics, and they are not working in the way that he's imagining. Because in his skewed up brain, he thinks that that's socially acceptable behavior. Goose is a woman. Why is she acting like this? Y'all may have to check that lady's computer. Gonna hold that to another case. Number 2, in the finale, they also tell us on his backstory with his mom. His mom and him got into an argument. The argument over whatever, and Jax quite literally says, I said something to get a rile out of her. He literally says he goes below the belt to say something to get a reaction out of his mother. And he was like, you know what she did? She laughed and she kept going tit for tat for me, and the situation kept getting worse because he took it low, she took it to hell. And he didn't like that. And so after the argument, when they're all quiet, she doesn't let him walk away. She goes and she gives her son a hug. She goes and she gives her son a hug because she cares about him. He took that as the true loss of that argument between him and his mom. He took that vulnerability that he was supposed to show as weakness because he don't got a daddy, so all of a sudden that means he has to be the hardest man out there. It doesn't have to fix stuff. You are still responsible for your mental illness, no matter what mind it has. And he pushes his mom. And she falls on the floor and she does not get back up. And instead of being a normal human being and showing concern for his mom, he showed self-preservation and left her and would have rather been homeless than call the ambulance for his mom. He quite literally put BoJack Horseman. BoJack is not a good person. They make that very clear throughout the show. There's a stretching technique in case y'all get on that. 3, he killed Kaufmo and Rickett. He killed them. He knows that you can't personally stab somebody. You have to break their mind to destroy them. And after he confides his mother's story to Ribbit, Ribbit looks at him and says, you know, we're Bookie Bears. We're in this together now. And he gets so enraged at the fact that he has spoken his own weaknesses out into the world. He goes to destroy the one person who he confided in because they know the secrets. He isolates her, and he isolates her purposely by every time he goes and he hangs out with everybody else, he tells them that she's crazy. If she says anything about she's crazy, there's something wrong with her, da-da-da-da. Whenever she goes to try to walk up to other people, he will purposely start conversations. Like Ribbit was walking up to them. Jax was sitting on the couch with Ragatha and Karen, and all of a sudden, when he literally, like, you see it out of his eyes. He sees Ribbit walking up. None of them are talking. And instead of leaving, he blocks them. And he's like, hey, Ragatha, remember we were talking about da-da-da-da. And he tries to carry the conversation and tries to show that she's isolated, which causes her to lose her mind and abstract. He killed Ribbit after he confided in her when he did not have to confide in her. He literally killed her. The second person. Kaufmo. He said, hey, I know that y'all cared about each other. I'm sorry this happened, but we're a trio, right? We're the 3. They went to coffee all the time. They acclimated him to the circus, and this is how he repaid them. And as soon as he realized Kaufmo saw some of his weakness, he set out to destroy them. There's a conversation that Ribbit and Jax have, where she's like, what did I do wrong? And he's constantly gaslighting her. Him acting like he doesn't know what's happening when he is the active cause. He does that on purpose. He is doing that on purpose. That's an evil man. And if you saw everything that Jax did in the show, and Goose, the author, directly calls herself a self-insert of Jax, if that is how you act in real life, that's scary shit. That's some really, really scary, concerning shit that y'all need to get fixed like yesterday. I am solidified in the fact that the only reason Jax went to kill himself, as in give up, was because there was a possibility in his mind that they would have been able to escape and he would have had to deal with the consequences of his actions. And he literally would have rather died than taken accountability. He quite literally died before he would be willing to do that.
My hype for the TADC movie is gone. For context, the movie got leaked, and I'm gonna be throwing spoilers, so if you don't want that, scroll, okay? Anyways, we expected them to leave the circus because that was literally the whole point of the series since episode 1, and you're telling me they just stayed there with shits and giggles? I also hate how most of the movie was based on Jax only. Also, why even say you deleted Kane if he's gonna just fly back? It doesn't even make sense. Like, yeah, Jax suddenly being the main character instead of Pomni is just insane and random. I honestly feel like the whole movie was just too rushed, without context at all. Oh, the least expected character will abstract. Then it's just Jax. Like, you've been making it too obvious. He's literally the most expected one. I'm sorry, but the whole movie overall is just ass.
Okay,
imagine your writing being so ass that people have to go to Twitter to understand your own show. A good example of that would be Jax being trans. Because I'm sorry, why was that discussed more on Twitter and Tumblr than in the actual show? And I being so ass, I literally had to look up almost everything in the show while I was watching it because of how confused I was about the writing. Why didn't any of the character plots stay consistent? It was changed. And there was no character development. Especially for Ragatha. Oh, he started ass. I felt so bad for her. She got no character development, while Jax got all of it. He got more than the main fucking character. And why didn't they give two fucking shits about them not even being real? Like what?
Abigail's out there living her best life, but while I'm in here, I'm Pomni.
Sorry, what? The entire show they were trying to escape. What was the point of them just like being a copied version of themselves at the end? What was the point? It's like they just gave up on the show and made it all about Jax abstracting. Nobody cares if he abstracts. Why does he have more lines than the main character? And then Zoom will punch the wall. Like what the fuck? There just could have been so much potential in the show. It like honestly makes me sad. But anyway, Doll said it's out.
Okay, I'm gonna better explain why Jax being trans should have stayed a headcanon. Now, before you throw your tomatoes, hear me out. It all makes sense, and when I say that, I mean him being FTM. Him being MTF, and him even being cis makes sense. Now let me explain. Oh, he's female to male makes sense because if the runes are insecurities, it would make sense in why he would despise the old side of him. That also could have been what he told his mom, why he'd be mad at looking femme, and the chicken fetus thing. The door that made noise could have been his old gender, and the bow between ribbit could have symbolized trust. Oh, he's male to female. That makes sense too. The pink room could represent his insecurities as a trans person. The bow could have symbolized the fact that ribbit accepts him as trans. The chicken fetus could mean he's closeted, and locked door could be female Jax. He's cis though. He just had fragile masculinity. Could work. Any guy with a fragile ego would hate being put in a maid dress. The pink room would make him feel small. The bow could have been to symbol ribbit saying, I trust you, you trust me, so have this part of me. The chicken in an egg could have been to show that he doesn't need help with anything, and he managed himself on his own. Yes, I understand it's used for trans people, but it has two meanings other than that one, I believe. I just think there would have been a lot less drama if Goose just made it all semi-canon. Kind of like the ships, but we all know Funny Bunny is canon. Tough. But that's my opinion, and yes, my next rant will be about how Funny Bunny is canon. Yuki out.